I'm Rick Mikesell with Trouts Fly Fishing. It's an absolutely gorgeous day here on the Colorado Front Range, and as temperatures warm into the spring and summer months, we really like to go out and target bass on the fly. This month's 5 flies were focused solely on large and smallmouth bass. Bass are an awesome target on the fly rod. They're difficult to fool here in the West. They're acrobatic. There's some surprisingly large fish out here in Colorado, and we really enjoy chasing them. I'd like to share 5 of my favorite flies for targeting bass this spring. In early spring and as we move through the spawn into June, water temps are a little cooler and bass tend to respond to more slowly presented jig style flies. We've borrowed a lot from the conventional fishing world as it pertains to soft plastics, mimicking those actions to get some more picky bass to eat as water temps are cooler. One of my favorite jig style flies is Jay Zimmerman's Jesus Lizard, also an awesome industrial noise rock band of the 90s. The Jesus Lizard is similar in action to a pork bait or a jig style lure in the conventional world. With heavy lead barbell eyes and a buoyant tail, you can do some pretty neat finesse presentations to stimulate a bass to eat when they're not necessarily hunting down prey. The fly drops down into the structure, stands on its head, and this buoyant tail wiggles ever so slightly. Add a little bit of action into the rod tip or strip slightly, and it bounces and jumps, and a lot of times it can convince a relatively picky bass to eat. Another of my favorite finesse style bass patterns is the worm slider. Those of you who have fished conventionally for bass with soft plastics know the Senko very well, and the Senko or plastic worm is one of the most deadly bass lures out there. The worm slider has a heavy tungsten bead in the front, so it headstands and this big chenille tail will pop up and flutter. And a lot of times when you're sight fishing bass, you can watch on the pause as that tail twitches, the bass just can't resist and comes and sucks it up. It's got a weed guard to protect from weeds or moss around structure, and this black and purple combination is really deadly. As water temps begin to warm, bass get a bit more predatory and begin to chase down bait fish and other prey. This is the Stay Hungry streamer in the perch coloration, and this is a phenomenal bait fish for bass throughout the summer. The barred grizzly hackle on the side does a great job of mirroring the big stripes on the side of a perch. It's available in other colors to mimic shad and bluegill and other popular bait fish. It's nice and heavy, so you can get it down deep without a sinking leader, and the craft fur body really flutters as you strip, so it's a great bait fish imitation as it moves through the water column. The perch is one of my favorites. I also quite like the bluegill variation. For number 4, we're gonna go with one of the most tried and true all-around flies of all time, and that's the Clouser minnow. If it ain't chartreuse, it ain't no use. I think Lefty Cray once said that. The chartreuse and white is among my favorites. The Clouser minnow catches just about anything that swims. It's probably the best bait fish pattern in existence, and bass will definitely key in on it when they're targeting bait fish. Last but not least is probably the most fun way to catch bass on the fly, and that's a popper. Bass and poppers have always gone hand in hand, and while we don't have a ton of opportunity to utilize them here in Colorado on overcast days, approaching or leaving fronts, anywhere where the weather's a little funky, bass definitely can respond. It mimics a wounded bait fish or a frog or something struggling on the surface, and particularly around structure, heavy weeds, lily pads, anywhere where there's a great ambush spot. It's nothing more exciting to see a big largemouth come out of the weeds and just absolutely smack a popper on top. Really, really fun, and don't hesitate to try them here in Colorado. Thanks everyone for watching. I highly encourage you to go out and chase bass on the fly. They're not just an alternative to trout fishing during runoff. They're a really fun and challenging game fish species, and most likely they're super close to home. If you have a couple hours, you can stop out before work, chase some bass, and have a really great morning or afternoon of fishing. If you have any questions about bass or any other species, we're always glad to help. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. We love talking about all types of angling. We look forward to seeing you next month. Have a great time on the water.